Chitoita Nakita of the Russian Nightmare, and you are listening to Wrestling for the Faith with Casey Cage. Stay tuned or I come after you. Chitoita.
Hello everyone, thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Wrestling for the Faith. I'm joined here today by one of my trainers, the man who gave me my first bumps and broke me into the sport of professional wrestling. But before we get to him, I want to read from Psalms chapter 50, beginning at verse 10. It says, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me by your generous spirit." One of the things that I always have loved about David, David is a man in the Bible, the only man, in fact, that the Bible, it says that he is a man after God's own heart. And the reason for that is when David messed up, he repented. When David messed up, he turned and went back to God. He didn't just use his failure as an excuse to lay down and live in his sin and just live in a continual lifestyle of sin. David was a man after God's own heart because he turned to God when he knew he was in trouble, when he knew he had made a mistake, when he knew he had sinned. He turned to God. And so that's the exact same way that we all need to be. We need to understand that Jesus died for us. He loves us, and he's always waiting with open arms to receive us into the kingdom. He wants to forgive us. He wants to restore us. He wants to set us on the right path, and he wants our lives to glorify God. So many times we do like Adam and Eve. When they sinned in the garden, they ran and hid from God, or tried to hide from God. But we can't hide from God. But we don't need to run away from God. We need to always run to God. He's there waiting with arms wide open. So I hope that blesses you. I hope you'll take that word and let it encourage you. And if you need restoration today, if you need a relationship with Jesus, he is there. He's always waiting for you. He's never going to leave you. He's never going to forsake you. So with that said, let me introduce, like I said, one of my trainers and the man who broke me into the sport, Big Henry Hoth. Healthy baby. How you doing?
I'm doing good. And before we get started on my career, backtracking and everything, that verse you just said, where David had sinned, he had his best friend put on the front line to get killed so he could be with his wife. Mm-hmm. That one verse has stuck with me my whole life, especially when if I was at the time when I was married, I didn't, no matter how bad things got, I stayed true, because the price that he had to pay when they lost their child, I would never, and the father I am, you know the father I am to my kids, and there's no way that I could ever have done something like that. The last thing, if you truly love your kids, you're going to do what's right, period. Yeah. And I still stand by that to this day. Once you're committed to that one person, that's it. Yeah. There's no other. So people come out here nowadays and if something's wrong or something ain't right, then they just start going, they got a wife or they have a husband, and they go out and they start going out and seeking other pleasures, they don't know the damage they're doing. Mm-hmm. Because who's going to benefit from it? No one is.
Right.
All it's going to do is cause destruction.
Yeah.
So I don't think a lot of people take it as serious as they used to. But to me, it's a very serious thing. But I just want to share that right before we get started. And so whenever you're ready, let's roll.
That's great. It is. It's something that, it's cool to live in sin today. Mm-hmm. It's cool, it's cool to be vulgar. It's cool to be trying to think of a word. It's cool to be whorish.
Yeah, it's more of the if it feels good, do it.
Right.
Type of life today, and it's not.
That's not God's desire. God's desire is for us to live for Him and let Him live in and through us. Mm-hmm. And as far as marriage goes, before I was married, I did it all wrong. But I can say from my experience and being who Jesus has made me now, that the love and the passion that I have in marriage, emotionally, physically, mentally, all of it is so much greater. Doing it God's way is so much greater than the worldly way that I used to live by. But anyway, so I mentioned that you broke me into the sport. Mm-hmm. So we can go back and we could talk a little bit about your beginning. I do want to touch on your football days before we get into wrestling, though.
Well, I was an offensive tackle for Bradley High School from 89 to 91. I had a pretty good football career. I didn't get to play very much as a sophomore. Played a lot my junior year, and then I was a full-time starter my senior year. And had a lot of schools interested in me, from mid-major colleges to Power 5 programs, as they call it today. Mm-hmm. Things just didn't work out, and it wasn't because of academics or being in shape or anything. It was just things didn't work out like I'd hoped. I was disappointed, but maybe that wasn't the path that was chose for me.
Right.
That was meant for me to go. Mm-hmm. So, and for years I had a lot of bitterness about it because I knew I could play at that level. I knew I could, but there was a time and day I just like, you know what? I got a good life. We got 2 beautiful kids, and it's time to move on. So I was able to let it go with a lot of praying. Yeah, with a lot of praying, I was able to let it go, and so I'm here now. I'm 47 today.
Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. And no complaints. I had a good time, and I did enjoy the publicity and going around on college tours and seeing all these massive stadiums that could hold 93,000 or 102, 445 now. The traveling, that's what I really, really set my sights on. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was my dream to play for Kansas City Chiefs, but heck, if I couldn't have never played for them, I'm definitely a fan. Have been since 1988, and never thought in my lifetime they was going to win the Super Bowl, but they did. And
they've been doing pretty good for the last couple of years, at least.
Well, the last 7 years. ever since Andy Reid took over. But yeah, you know, life's good now, and I become a grandpa 3 months ago, Miss Charlie May, and you love your kids. You know, you put your kids in a place where you think love is unexplainable, but then when you hold that granddaughter, and you're thinking, I've never felt this before in my life, never. I mean, you love your kids, but man, when I first held my granddaughter and I seen them little blue eyes, it's like whatever hole, whatever crack, whatever scar was on my heart, it's healed. It's great. I love it. And anybody else out there, when you become a grandparent, you start getting gray hairs and thinking, I'm too old to love. And your child has a child of their own, then you'll see what love is. I promise you.
Yeah. So, all right. So you went from playing football in high school, and then now, how did you, for the listeners out there, how did you break into wrestling?
Well, my Uncle Jim, who lived right up the road from me, he was going down to a show called TWA every Friday night down in Cleveland off Blue Springs Road. He had asked me, he said, why don't you come with us? It's only $5. And so I just thought, well, heck yeah, why not? So every Friday night I was going down to watching wrestling with my uncle, and I was sitting there in the crowd, and I got up and I went to a concession stand. There was I guess it was one of the promoters or trainers were standing over there, and they kept looking at me. And I look at them and I nod my head and they nod back. And then at the end of the show, I guess it'd probably been about 3 or 4 months I'd been going consistent. And finally one of them just come up and said, can we talk to you for a minute? I'm like, okay. And so he said, have you ever thought about being a pro wrestler? I said, no, not really, but I was like, are you thinking I should try? He said, yeah. He said, you got a good frame, you're a big boy. And he said, we just, like to know if you'd be interested. And I said, well, yeah, I'll try it. They said, be here tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And so here I am sitting on your love seat in your house 29 years later telling the story.
Yeah.
So went in there and we started training, and they didn't teach me nothing for 3 weeks because I constantly got beat. I got beat. And I don't mean, it was more of the, I thought my dad took me to the woodshed. No, they put me in the woodshed. They put me through a chipper.
They was making sure you
they was making
have
sure
the passion
they made one
for it.
Yes. And that's the way they used to do it back in the days. They would beat you senseless to make sure if you was going to waste their time, put their name and reputation on the line, that you were going to be committed to it.
Right.
And I think they went through like 10 or 12 people in a 3-week period. And it was me and a guy named Courtney. I can't remember the other guy's name, but there was only 3 of us left. Now it started getting to the spring, and where the temperature started really getting hot, they would have us run around the building 10 times, and then as soon as we got on the 10th one, we had to shoot into the ring and start running ropes for 3 minutes straight. Hard as you could. I thought I was going. That was a few times I thought I was going to pass out.
Yeah.
And did I puke? I puked every day. Every day I puked. And I sit there and the more I started taking all this in, and the more all the, when we were getting beat, the more I started loving it.
Yeah. And
here I am thinking, this is worse than 2 days in football, but I'm still here because I'm wanting more.
Right.
And having to run the railroad tracks, especially during the summertime, we had to run 2 miles we had to run a mile down, a mile back, and they always warned us, if that train's coming, make sure you get off the track.
Duh.
So here it is. I mean, the railroad ties and those big, whatever they call them,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they lay the tracks
either,
on.
yeah.
That sun's coming straight down. You can see the heat just rising up, just off of it, and you're sitting there and you're just pouring sweat. And I mean, it's like I'd show up in a shirt, and as soon as I got through just running, sweat would just be just dropping off at the ends of my shirt. It was unreal, and I bet you within a 3.5 month period, I lost. Let's see, I weighed, when I started training, I was hitting the scales about 293, a healthy 293 pounds.
Yeah.
And when I had my first match, I was down to 261.
They had sawed you down to size.
They had, yeah. And I wasn't really that, I mean, I had a little bit of chubbiness to me, but that was gone.
Yeah.
When I started getting in my pants and everything, my clothes just started hanging off of me, and my mom told me, she goes, son, if you keep losing weight, you're going to look like a white Ethiopian. So, but we got it. And then after that third week and all the, we went through the training and everything, or let's see if the kid really wants it.
Yeah.
Then they started working with us on holds, lockups, arm bars, bumps. That's the first thing we learned, how to bump. Then we did the lockups, and then we just start going through. We do this, and we would just constantly work on that for 2 and 3 hours at a time. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, during the summertime, I was shoveling asphalt at the street department, and then I was training. As soon as I get off work, I go straight there. We trained from 3:30 to 6:30, and as soon as I was done with that, I was at the ball fields playing ball.
So you staying pretty busy and
I was staying
active.
Yeah. And believe me, I didn't think, I never thought I'd get the set of lungs on me I had. But it got to where I could run up, I was running up to 3 to 4, sometimes 5 miles a day. And it was like it was nothing. Yeah. I just felt like I was floating when I was running. And so I had been training for about 3.5 months, and they were going to wait probably around July before they was going to give me my first match. But something happened. The original gangster, his name was Terry Berry. I guess there was something must have went wrong, but he walked. He was done with it. He didn't want to do it no more. So I was pulling up, and then my trainer, Randy Spiegel, or Cowboy Randy Steele, he said, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay, what'd I do? He come in and he said, you feel you're ready? I'm like, yeah, I think so. He said, well, you're going to have your first match Saturday night. And so we got in there and we started going through the match and trying to figure out what we was going to do. And I mean, it was just every night we hammered. I think that was on a Wednesday night. And then Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, all we done was worked our first match. That was it. So here I am, as soon as I got paid, went to Walmart and got me a black t-shirt, some black cargo pants. Of course, I already had my boots. And Randy had a black mask for me to wear. Now, during the summertime, it is not fun to wear a mask.
No, it's not.
Okay, now, and I tell you that thank God that I had done all that conditioning and cardio, because we went probably right around about the 30-minute mark. I thought I was going to pass out.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's when you're sitting there and you're sucking wind trying to get through that mask, it's got that little lint piece over the mouth and your nose, and you're sitting there, and you're breathing so hard that the lint's actually coming in your mouth and up your nostrils because, you're trying to get air.
Yeah. But and what some people don't understand is, you see these people in the gym and they can run on a treadmill or whatever. They can run miles and miles and be fine. But then they get in the ring. They get in the ring and it's a totally different thing.
It is.
Gym cardio and wrestling ring cardio is two different things.
Yes.
And then you add working under a hood or in the mask on top of that. That is, whoa.
Yes.
I mean, that's like 10 times worse.
It is. It's like you're just stuck in a sauna. And so, and especially when I was wearing all black attire in the summertime.
Right.
The building was muggy, and I mean, we was having they were having boxing matches and wrestling matches back and forth. So I don't know what it was that Doug Watkins, God rest his soul, had worked out with them, but they was able to pull it off, and they'd have a boxing match, then they had a wrestling match, boxing match, wrestling match. So I think me and Randy was the fifth, going on fourth or fifth. I can't remember, and I wasn't even nervous. I wasn't even nervous, and I remember I came out to Metallica's Wherever I May Roam. Of course, everybody was loving it, Enter Sandman, but I loved Wherever I May Roam. And I don't know, but it was like when I stepped through that curtain for the first time, it's like I couldn't hear nobody. I was so focused on that first match, I couldn't hear nobody. I couldn't even. It's like you couldn't even see nobody. All you could see was the ring.
Yeah.
And we got in there, and buddy, we got that crowd going right. And he hit me with his finisher. And they made me the champion. I was thinking, God, how many guys their first match gets to be the champion? Right. And it was an old Deep South Tag Team title belt, and I thought I fell on top of the world. Man, I did. I was turning around. I was thinking, whoo, Ric Flair ain't got nothing on Space Mountain like I don't have. Woo! But we got it there. Go ahead.
Now the gimmick.
Yeah.
The first gimmick.
Dark Destroyer.
Okay. Now, did you come up with this, or Randy come up with it, or?
I can't. I just got the outfit, and I actually did not come up with a name till the day of the show.
Oh, okay.
Because I was sitting there and I was up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was writing everything down, names, Black Destroyer, Dark Destroyer, crazy names. I think I come up with one that was kind of like a German name. It was called Blitz von Break Their Neck or something like that. And it was crazy stuff. But so I settled with Dark Destroyer. I asked my brother, my brother Chris, he always likes giving his opinions, and I wrote all these names down, and I handed it to him, and I said, what do you think? He turned around, he circled it and said Dark Destroyer. So that's what I went with, and so
I remember now you had started training me, and then I don't even remember how it happened, but there was a promoter out of Georgia called me and was needing some extra guys for a show on Saturday. And he calls me and asks me to come down. And so, I was trained respect.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting in the ring unless my trainer tells me that I'm good. So I remember calling you and I'm like, hey, what do you think?
Right.
Am I ready? And you said, I think you'd be all right with this. And you went down with me.
I went down with you.
But I remember you talking about trying to come up with names. I remember after I got off the phone with you, I called him back and I said, okay. I said, I can come down Saturday. And he said, okay, what's your name? And I'm sitting on the front porch and I'm like, I said, Casey? And he said, well, what's your last name, kid? And I'm looking around and I'm like, I've not thought this through. And I look over to the right of the house off the porch and I see the dog kennel.
Yeah.
And I said, Cage, but spell it with a K. Yeah. so that was how that come about, and thankfully I've just stuck with it. But yeah, that process of trying to come up with names and stuff, especially when you're you're in that position where it's like, hey, I need you to tell me this now.
Yeah.
You know, like you're at the day of the show, and well, what's my name going to be?
Right. So we had a good match, and you know, I remember back in when we used to have the VHS, and I was sitting there and I was watching the matches, and I wasn't really even paying attention to the match, but I'd watch the crowd. A lot of people were just standing around, stuff like that, and they wasn't really paying attention to it. By the end of that match, everybody in that building was turned watching. Everybody was, because the crowd was so hot. Even the boxers were standing out there. They were like, they had a trailer out the back for the boxers. Well, even the boxers were standing in the building watching the match. And, I mean, the crowd was hot. I mean, we do the two good faults, you know, back in. I mean, the clothesline was a power move. And he's going to pin him. And I'd hit Randy with the clothesline. I go down and pin him. And Joe Evans, 1, 2. Randy kick out. Crowd, oh, God. And then we was getting ready to take it home. Randy was sucking wind. I was sucking wind. He turned around. He's like, take it home, kid. He turned around. I shot him off. And I run into him. And when he stuck his boot out, you're supposed to stick it. As soon as the boot touches your face, you're supposed to take your bump. I had Randy look like a ballerina because his right leg was sticking up right beside his ear. And, my gosh, my dad don't know a lick of beans about pro wrestling. He looked at me and said, son, weren't you supposed to fall as soon as your face hit his boot?
Oh, you took it all.
I took it all.
Man.
But I ate boot. I ate the soul of somebody's boot that night. But Randy, then he pinned me, and he pinned me to become the champ. And I remember his sweet loving mama was standing out in the crowd. Was out in the crowd, I don't know, well, if it's mom or his mother-in-law, I can't remember, but. Boy, she was jumping up and down, and everybody was hollering, and it got so loud in there, the hard camera was shaking because everybody was just so ecstatic. And and then walked in the back, and then Roger Sartain, he was shot caller, and he said, kid, that was a dang good match. And Randy come in there, he gave me a hug, and said, you made me proud, and that's when it took off. So.
That's pretty good. So then, I know you did some other
gimmicks
shows here and there, and other gimmicks. Now, what you went from the Dark Destroyer, and then
I went to the Russian Nightmare.
Okay,
that was the whole purpose. They was going to bring me in as a Russian, but they was looking for a replacement. So, you know, on such short term notice, I mean, this is like the week of the show. Getting everything set up, and so I continued to do, I think, about 3 or 4 more shows as the Dark Destroyer, and then they scratched that gimmick. So here I come as a Russian Nightmare. Now I got an 8-foot logging chain, big shiny log chain. I didn't even have to say a word other than just to walk out. And on my butchers was a big red Soviet emblem. Mm-hmm. That was it. I didn't have to yell at them. I didn't have to tell them shut up. I didn't have to say anything.
Good, easy heat.
Oh, easy. Easy, bro. Easy. And then I go in there, and they were ready to kill me. They were virtually ready to kill me. And I did the Russian gimmick for a little bit, and then I did a few shows. I did a couple of shows in Atlanta with the gimmick. Got over well there. I don't remember the promoter's name at the time. Then after that, it got to the point I was getting death threats from crowds. So I was like, ooh, this is getting serious here. Now, if I was doing this for a living, you know, I'd keep doing it. Right. But so at the time, I was really studying Bret Hart, and I was a huge mark. I'm not gonna lie.
And I think we all are. That's what got us here.
Yeah, so I started doing the Hitman gimmick, and I got an outfit similar to Bret Hart's, not identical but similar. It went really well, and but I still wasn't feeling myself.
Right.
I was not feeling myself. I did that gimmick from 95 till 2000. So they was telling me that I've always loved doing like the outlaw gimmick, the cowboy, the farm boy. So I turned around and I took some time off around between 2000 and 2001. And I started toying with a object of trying another gimmick again. So, one night I was watching Bonanza. Hoss cart ride. I was like, Hoss.
Yeah.
We're on to something here. And I turned around and I had a pair of overalls that was in my closet. And I turned and I looked at my overalls and I went, oh boy. It's coming together now. And I took the scissors and I cut the, from the knees down, I cut the legs of the overalls off. Went and got an airbrushed Hoss on my backside. And I was like, nah, I just can't go by Hoss, but I got to come up with something else. What would good go with Hoss? And I was sitting there debating Hank, Henry. And then I called Bill Behrens. Well, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of how I got associated with Bill Behrens, but actually,
you can go ahead and tell that story if you want to, and then come back to
Okay.
to talking to Bill about the Hoss gimmick.
Okay, so I called Bill. And I said, okay, Bill, I got the gimmick. And he said, well, what'd you come up with? I said, I definitely want Hoss in the name of Hoss in the character. I was like, would you prefer Hank or Henry? He went back, he said, I like Henry Hoss. I said, okay. So he said, perfect. It's perfect. I love it. And I said, all right, good. So going back to how I got to know Bill, Bull Buchanan, he was in WWF at the time, or E. And he's like, he started, he gave me Paul Heyman's number. He gave me Bill Behrens' number. And so I called both. And of course, 15 years later, I found out Paul Heyman never does answer his phone calls. Never. So I talked to Bill, and he said, well, come down for a tryout. And Rick Michaels, he was the head trainer there. So me and a guy I used to tag with, his name was Don Espy. We went down, we did a tryout. They liked us, two big guys that can work and fly around the ring. So I was getting all my gear together, and we was doing a Saturday night show. And I went in as Big D. And so they was one guy they brought in from North Carolina. He was doing some Thunder Chicken gimmick. Well, that's what I called him, Thunder Chicken. He was trying to portray one of the young bloods gimmicks. And he was a sleaze bag. But anyways, I just turned around and I told Bill at that time, I was like, I got to find something. This is not working. This gimmick ain't working. Yeah. So that's when I was sitting there and I just committed myself to finding a gimmick that would suit me and what the people would like. And everybody, I kept hearing Scotty Wren. He kept saying, man, he said, I did this farm boy gimmick, country boy. And he said, they loved it. He said, I think it looked great on you. So that's when I sit down. I was up late night and I was sitting there picking my brains out, trying to figure out what gimmick to come up with. And that's when I saw the horse cart ride. I saw the overalls. And then, of course, my uncle's name was Henry. God rest his soul. And so it just come together, Henry Hoss. And then I called Bill. Bill says, well, he said, we think you need to do a little bit more work, try to get sharpened up, but we want you to be on TV. So I did 3 Friday night shows. And by my 3rd Friday night show, Bill says, I think you're ready. He said, be here March 17th. So on March 17th, 2001, the entire nation got to see Big Henry Hoss.
Yeah.
And that's when Big Henry Hoss was born.
So now you're talking about NWA Wildside TV. Now you were doing those were house shows on the Friday nights?
Yes, those were house shows on Friday nights, and then we went did national TV tapings every first and third.
So was you doing the Hoss gimmick up until?
No.
So you was just doing another gimmick, just working, and then you debuted the Hoss gimmick on the TV.
Oh no! Now on the house shows, I did do Hoss.
Okay.
I did do Hoss, and when I first walked in that locker room, you saw the boys are all chilling. You introduce yourself and everything, and so it was intimidating.
Oh yeah,
it was intimidating, man. I was sitting there and I was watching the screen in the back with the boys. I'm sitting there and I'm blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm definitely going to get my game up here. If I'm going to stay in this locker room and be a part of the show, I'm going to have to step up my game.
Right.
Because, back in the day, there used to be outlaw shows, independent, and then there was mainstream.
Right.
And so you go from an outlaw show to an independent.
Yeah.
Your game's got to be up a level. I mean, it's just got to be up there. And I was fortunate enough to be in the locker room with guys like, AJ Styles.
Yep.
And look where he's at now.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Styles, Onyx, Cold Twins, Caprice Coleman, Jason Cross, Adam Jacobs, James Phoenix. I think that's his name. Then there was not Sean Schultz. That was another one. God, what's his name? Well, there was Tank, Iceberg. All them boys were there. And I mean, it was like NWA Wildside was what WWE was back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, it was it. I mean, as far as being the independent show,
it was the place to be.
It was the place to be because there was more talent signing with mainstream. I mean, R-Truth,
mm-hmm.
Ron the Truth Killings. He left for WWF the week before I got there. When I was doing my house shows, he sent a video in to WWF. That week, they called him. Mm-hmm. He was gone. They signed him. And then had my first match, national televised taping with Prince Justice, a.k.a. Chris Parks, a.k.a. Abyss, a.k.a. his brother, whatever, his twin brother he played.
Joseph Parks.
Yeah. And so we had a great match, and then that's when things started steadily picking up, and Bill saw that I was over, because the first time I came out to She Thinks My Tractor Sexy by Kenny Chesney, and the crowd just went crazy.
Yeah.
And after our match, I walked through there, and Bill pulled me outside. He said, looks like we got a superstar here. And so Bill, he used me how I would best benefit the show. I did a lot of the first matches, and I was getting really over with the crowd. And I was always told by promoters, your pop is your push, or your heat's your push. And so I didn't understand that, but because I thought, I was going so over with the crowd that he would
Why
start
am I not the main event?
Yeah, well, you got AJ Styles. That's one reason.
Right.
I mean, nothing against AJ, but it's just he could.
But he was the top guy.
He was the top dog of the show, and so I took it as a personal goal to make sure that that first match looked like main event.
Yeah,
and then because I've always been told by every promoter that the first match sets the tone for the show.
The first one and the last one are the most important.
And Bill had me pegged at the first match probably 90% of the time.
Yeah.
And there was a couple times, Bill put me in semi-main event, and which You know, but I was just, it got to the point where I was liking it so much, it being the first match where I could just do the match, get paid, get dressed, and head home. Because it was almost a 4-hour drive from Charleston to Cornelius, Georgia. Yeah. And it was all mountains.
Right.
But
I mean, you know, with that first match, you get to go out there when the crowd's still hot, they're fresh, they're not drained yet. And, you know, I've even when I've been booking and stuff, I've had guys get mad about being the first match. And it's like, you don't understand what a responsibility you have. You know, we're putting you, now I know maybe some crap show promoters would put their least talented guys on first, but any smart booker is going to put on something at the beginning that's going to get the crowd going.
Yeah.
You know, and something that's going to make the other guys have to step up their game for the rest of the show. Yep. So it's that first match sets the pace. So it's an honor to be in that.
Yes,
that position.
And that's where Bill had me pegged about every TV taping was first match, and which was fine. I loved, you know, I was fine with it. It wasn't even about ego. An ego. It was just I was happy.
Right.
You know, I'm still happy. I'm still getting booked every TV taping where he could have just shipped me off.
Yeah.
Sent me somewhere else. But I do owe a lot of thanks to Bill for you know, sticking with me and giving me that opportunity to set the tone for the show and had a really, really, really good run. However, I kind of didn't like the way it ended, but I had there was a tag team called Total Destruction. It was Sean Royal and Rusty Riddle, and they were called Total Destruction. And Bill was wanting to bring them back because they were so over with the crowd, but he couldn't find nobody that wanted to work them. Why not? They're afraid of them. I laughed. I said, I'm not afraid of Sean Rusty. I said, I love to work the guys. And because we always talked about wanting to work one another.
Right.
He said, well, we got to find a tag team partner for you. And so John Dalton, John was about 6'5", about 260, 270. I said, let me call John and see if he'd be interested in it. So I called John from the show, and I was like, I said, Johnny, and I started talking to John about it, and he said, well, I'm 5 minutes away, I'm booked, and I didn't even know it. So John, he said, I'll be there at the arena in 5 minutes, brother. He said, we'll we'll talk with Bill and everything. So we talked to Bill, and I told Bill, I said, I'll turn heel. And Bill he almost dropped his book. He said, what? I said, I'll turn heel. I said, let me work Sean and Rusty. I'll turn heel.
Yeah. Just
let me work them. I've always wanted to work them. He said, are you sure? 100% sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. So we was in the 6-man tag, and me and John, when we were in the 6-man tag, that's how we had it set up. We would not touch one another in the ring. We just lock up. We do clean breaks, all that. Hey, we backed off, and everybody kept saying, hit him, House, hit him, hit him, hit him. And I wouldn't hit him. I was like, no, I can't do that. And I just back off. I go over and I tag one of the other guys in. Well, come time for the hot tag, he and I got the hot tag at the same time. So as we started coming into the ring, we went at one another, and then we stopped. We smiled at one another, shook hands, turned around. We just started pulverizing the guys we were working with. And then we shook hands, and we just started cleaning house. And you could have heard a pin drop in that building.
Yeah,
people were shocked. Oh my God! Why, Halsey? And we just loving it. And then Sean and Rusty came back for the next TV taping. We went out there, and Rusty had a Coors Light in his hand. He's like, come on, man. He said, what you just chill out? He was more the surfer type dude. And Sean, Rusty was more like the deep grunted voice. I'm going to kick your ass, bro. I'm going to, come on, bro. Rusty's like, hey, man, come on. Let's just here. Let's have a beer. Come on, man. Chill out now. And I turned around and I smacked the beer out of his hand. He shook his head, boy, and we just started going to war right there. And, I mean, they had to bring security and other workers in to do a pull apart. And I mean, that crowd was getting hot. Oh, it was getting hot. And then we did the pull apart. Then we come back for the next TV taping. And the crowd was right, boy. As soon as for whom the bell tolls started playing, the crowd was on their feet, and they were coming out, and they got into the ring. We just went to a full blown war, and he got to a point. Rusty had a beer can, and he had it open. He reared back and held that beer can. He hit me right in the forehead with it. Pow! Beer went everywhere on the floor. And I turned around, he picked me up, and I said, throw me in the rail. And I mean, these ain't ropes.
Yeah,
these were actual steel.
Yeah,
they were the real deal. I said, throw me into the railing. Rusty grabbed me back behind the head, and he threw me. And as soon as my foot hit that beer that was in the floor, I slipped, went head first right into the railing. Boom! I'm sitting there, and my eyes are crossed. Okay. And then Rusty leaned down and said, you okay, brother? He said, man, that was cool. He picked me up, threw me in the ring. I'm sitting there, and I'm still trying to collect my thoughts for a minute. And John and Rusty are out on the floor, and they're going through the crowd. And finally we got back into the ring. And I can't recall if we went, if we got DQ. I think we got DQ'd that match. Come back, had another one, and come back, had another match, and it was a false count anywhere. All right, building's packed out. Mm-hmm. Building is packed out. And this time we switched up. I was working Sean, and John was working with Rusty. So man, and I don't know why, but Sean always loved to fight out on the floor. Bro, I took the hardest chair shot in my life. Oof. From Rusty. He hit me so hard in the back. I was on all fours. He took that steel chair and he hit me right in the back. And I kid you not, God standing in front of me on 10 Bibles, that the imprints of the chair were in my back. The imprints. I'm sitting there feeling my back, and I said, what did you do to me? Dang, bro, that was awesome.
Well, he's like, well, you got a big old wide back. I can lay it in there.
Well, he did. He laid that sucker right in there, and he was like, dang, bro, that was awesome. So, in came the Dobbin boys. And I'm like, what are they doing here? By that time, we got in the back. And I looked at him and I said, what are y'all doing here? He said, oh man, we're fixing to run an angle with these guys. I said, what? I said, I'd said it twice. I said, what? He said, yeah. He said, we're coming in here, we're jumping in to run an angle with them. They didn't even know it. And it really upset Sean and Rusty really bad because we had such a great chemistry between us four. We had already planned, we was going to run the angle for 7-8 months. I mean, we was going to tear the house down. And I mean, we've already had 2 matches, and one was a pull apart, another one was they won. They went over on the second one, and then what I didn't know until Bill had told me later that they were doing a talent exchange.
Yeah. But before we get to that, let's take a quick break.
All right.
Hey guys, have you ever wanted to have your very own podcast? Well, you can now thanks to Anchor. Anchor has easy-to-use editing tools, and one of my favorite things about Anchor, they will distribute your podcast to all the major platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and the others. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. So Bill comes to you and talks to you about this talent exchange. Now, what's this talent exchange? Where is Hossy going?
Well, before this happened, Dusty Rhodes ran a show in Cleveland. So I went down there. I called in the promoter. I was booked at a show the night he was supposed to be in Cleveland. So I called the promoter. I was going to meet Dusty. So I called the promoter. I canceled the show and went to National Guard Armory in Cleveland. And I was Jimmy. I can't remember his last name. It was a guy named Jimmy and a guy called Pops. His name was Rodeo. God rest his soul. And they kept calling me, Dusty wants to meet you. Dusty wants to meet you. Just come to the show. So I showed up. And after the show's over with, they got me. They brought me in the back and said, Dusty will be here in a minute. And I'm sitting there and I'm nervous. I mean, here's a man that I watched. I mean, even people portrayed me to be as when I was in middle school.
Yeah.
Because you know how big it was getting back then. Sting, Dusty, Luger, Nikita. I never even barely knew what WWF was.
Right.
It was NWA. That was it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there at the table and I'm waiting. And all of a sudden the door opens up. And here comes this man who I thought was probably at least 6'4". It's probably no more than 5'10". And he had that look, and it took me back to a vision when he was at Starrcade '86 in the First Blood match against Tully Blanchard, and then he walked through that door with the same look on his face, and my jaw hit the floor. God, this is really the dream.
This is the dream.
This is the dream. So we sat down, we started talking. We shook hands and we started talking. He said, "How long you been?" He said, "How long you been working, kid?" And I was like, I think at the time it was 10, 11 years. I said, I'd been in it going on 10, 11 years. And he said, he just shook his head and said, well, you mind if we take a look at you? I said, no, by all means, go ahead. He said, who you working for? I said, Bill Behrens. He said, he kind of had that little sly grin on his face. Said, I know Bill. I know Bill. He said, we'll be in touch with you. Well, then that's when we were at the show, because I didn't really expect to hear back from Dusty at all.
Yeah.
I really didn't, because he could get anybody he wanted, snap of his finger. And then that's when Jason and I can't remember the other guy's name. Jason and John Dobbins, the Dobbins twins. That's when they showed up down there in that old school building, and when that was going on, and I'm like, what are y'all doing here? He's like, oh man, we're coming down here to we're gonna work an angle with these guys. We're doing a run-in night, and they were actually sitting out in the crowd. And I didn't even really notice them until they clumb over the rail,
Right.
and started beating the heck out of Sean and Rusty. And I'm like, what in the world are these guys doing here? What's Dusty's boys doing here? And then we got in the back, and then everything started coming out, and then Bill says, you're going to Dusty's. So I was sitting there going, okay.
Hey,
All
that's
right.
what I'm talking about.
Okay. It kind of sucked because I really busted my hump there at Wildside for 2 years. I really did. But I can say this, that my level of work went up 10 notches because of them, because I was able to adapt to working smaller guys,
Yeah.
and keep up with them. I can't now. You might as well go ahead and give me a cane or one of those
Walker.
walkers. But nah. Yeah, but I really do owe a lot to NWA Wildside. I owe a lot to Bill. I was able to be around the guys I worked there, and they taught me a lot. There was a lot of things I learned, not only was able to have a ground game, but I could get up in the air as well.
Yeah.
And
that's always what happens whenever I've always told guys, if you stay at the same show working the same people, you're never going to get better.
No.
But when you travel, when you work different shows and work different people, and you go to these different shows, and a lot of people are intimidated to work people who are better than them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the ones you should want.
Yeah.
You should want to be in the ring with the guys who are better than you, because if you listen and you take in like a sponge, take in what they're doing, it's going to help you.
Yeah.
You're only as good as the people who you're working with.
Yeah. And I can tell you right now, I was around some world-class athletes. I'm telling you, like I said, AJ Styles, Caprice Coleman, Adam Jacobs, John Phoenix, Onyx, Kyle Neely. We had one match that was just off the chain, and it was a Wildside sold out.
Mm-hmm.
They sold out. Jerry Palmer bought NWA Wildside from Bill, and they called it NWA Anarchy.
Right.
And a lot of fans, after Wildside died, a lot of the fans left. So they were doing everything they could to bring in new fans, and it was different. It wasn't Wildside, but Anarchy. It was a lot more laid back in there, because the locker room, when you walked into that dressing room during a Wildside show, you could take a knife and you could cut the air.
Yeah.
It was so intense in that room, because everybody, every single loving person brought their A game.
Right.
Every single TV taping. And you just start breaking out in sweat as soon as you start walking through the door. It was that intense in there, because everybody was trying to outdo everybody. Everybody was trying to get top spot. Sorry, you're not going to beat AJ Styles, period. You're not going to outdo AJ Styles. That's why he's in WWE right now.
Yeah.
And one guy I really like to give a shout out to is a man named Jeff G. Bailey. This man, he was by far, to me and to a lot of other people, that man deserved to be in mainstream. He was magic behind the stick. That man could cut a promo like nobody's business. He could get a crowd riled up like nobody, and he was just he was phenomenal. That man should have been a millionaire in this business.
Yeah.
And it's a shame to see a man that had such talent and such charisma to not be in the mainstream. It's a shame. And if I had three of my top favorite managers in the business, Jeff G. Bailey be one of them, Cornette, and Heenan's the other one.
Yeah,
and
that's a heck of a crowd to be in.
Oh, I'm telling you, he would have done phenomenal in it. And TNA was a fool for not signing him.
Yeah,
TNA was just an absolute fool for not signing him, because nothing against Scott D'Amore, but he walking down the ring going, hoo, 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 hoo. And Jeff G. Bailey could grab a mic, he could turn around. Jeff could turn around and look at somebody cross-eyed, and they'd be just fired up at him. Yeah, just mad. And he didn't have real heat. This dude had white heat. He had somebody wanting to kill him every single show. Now we'll get back to Dusty right here in just a second, but I'm gonna tell this one tale about Jeff. We were doing a show up in Kingsport, Tennessee, where Innovate Wrestling is.
Yeah.
And Bailey has no filter on his mouth when it comes to a crowd. He called this old boy SOB. Here comes Jeff running through the curtain. Boom. He grabs a chair. And the guy starts coming through that curtain. Jeff hauls that chair off and throws it at him. And he almost hits that guy. Then he gets behind me and says, "Get him, Henry. Take care of him." And I'm sitting there, and I grab that guy, and I'm sitting there pushing him back, holding him back. And there's two other guys grab Jeff, and Jeff's screaming, "You want to die? You want to die freaking kill you. You want to die? You MFer, I'll kill you. I turn around and I look at Jeff, you all right? And he just smiles and says, I'm fine, brother.
Oh, man.
I said, you are magic,
That's
man.
it. That's that good kind of heat. Those are the kind of people that you wanna work in front of.
Yeah.
But so going back to you going to work for Dusty. Now before you get into this, I'm gonna go ahead and tell a story.
Okay.
That happened when I was just a couple of months in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has always heard me call you Halfie Baby.
Right.
And, that spread through the locker rooms and everything. But where that came from was this time when I had just broke in the business and you were booked for TNA. Mm-hmm. And I ride to the fairgrounds in Nashville with you. And so we're there early in the day, and we're conversing and hanging out, and I'll never forget coming down the hallway with his arms wide open. Is the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and he said, "Healthy baby." And he comes up, gives you a big hug. So that's where, for any of the boys who might listen to this, who wondered where that ever come from, or any of the other listeners who wonder why I call you Healthy Baby, that's the reason. Because that very first meeting with Dusty, that's what I get to see, is him coming down the hallway with his arms spread wide open and say, "Healthy baby." So all right. Anyway, so you leave NWA Wildside and you are going to Dusty Rhodes Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling.
Yes. So first match we had in Cleveland, Dusty asked if I'd help promote it. So I was promoting the show, was putting out the posters, I was selling tickets. I sold over $2,000 worth of tickets for the show. And I think we had probably, well, you were there.
Oh, yeah.
You was there. You called me. You care if I come? I was like, I don't care. Come on, kid. And
we were at every one of those things. I mean, those were some really hot shows. We loved them.
I believe that the first show that we were there, that night I was booked for my first show. I think we probably had over 500 people in that building, easy. Yeah. And so I was working. What's his name? Palm Beach boy, Scotty.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a time right at the beginning of the match, we locked up. I hit him with a spear, and I was giving him shots to the forehead, and they took a picture. I got a picture. Okay, I got a picture where I'm straddling and I'm hitting him right in the top of the head. There you are standing up.
Oh, really?
Matt Jordan, Jay West, you're all standing up. Your mouth, you got this great big giant smile on your face. Matt's throwing his arms up in there, and Joey's throwing his arms up in there. And I'm sitting there going, man, this is a classic right here. But went over. Everybody was loving it, and Dusty gets jumped. Dusty's in the main event. He gets jumped by I think it was Sonny Siaki, and I think David Flair and Sonny Siaki were doubling down. I come in, make the save, boom, 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 and then the next time we bring the show back, I'm tagging with Dusty.
Yeah.
And then we're working Flair and Siaki, and then that match went over great. I gigged in that match from Siaki hit me with a cowbell. Of course, I can't tell you how many times I've gigged over that thing.
I know. It always seems, we take them to the ring, but it always seems that they get used on us.
Yeah, exactly. And so I cut a promo, and I was challenging Siaki to a bull rope match, and Dusty was going to be handcuffed. I think her name was Desire. It was Siaki's girlfriend or his wife, and but we did a lot of shows around Atlanta. Did some in North Carolina. Dusty did I think right when he first started up, he did like a 20-day run.
Mm-hmm.
Through, he was trying to get back to territory is what he was trying to do.
Right.
It's kind of like the Mid-Atlantic days, because I sit down in his office with him. He was explaining to me what he was trying to do. And I mean, I'm sitting there at my shoot job, and, I'm on lunch. I turn around and look, and I say I got a call. I check the voicemail, Dusty. I mean, even though it's a great feeling knowing that somebody reached out to you, somebody with that credibility and being a legend in the business, a former NWA World Champion, calling you, said, "Hey, let's do this. I want to talk to you about this," or "What do you think about this?" And it was great. It's awesome. But when I know when I started hearing less and less from Dusty, and I knew something was up, and then that's when it was about 10:30 one night, and I was getting ready to go to bed, and so Dusty calls me. He said, "Just going to let you know," he said, "that I've been offered a job by Vince to be the head trainer at a school down in Orlando." He said, "So I'm not saying I'm shutting the doors on TCW, but just letting you know what could be happening." And so Dusty took the job. He closed the doors on TCW, and that was around 04, 05. But so they opened up the training center in Orlando. Dusty moved from he lived in Varnell, Georgia, which is right outside of Atlanta. Excuse me, or was it Varnell or Marietta? But so he moved to Orlando, and that's pretty much the last I heard from him.
Yeah.
And I mean, there'd be from time to time we talk on the phone. I mean, we'd even tried to plan even going deer hunting, but his obligations, he couldn't do it. But after there for a while, I got to where he was so busy that we never did talk no more. But there's one thing I left out before all this occurred, and I do want people out there to know. There was a man called Bob Sapp, okay? And a lot of people don't know this, but, and I owe Bill Behrens this too. I got invited to go to WCW's power plant, work out with the developmental boys. And really, I guess this is the most satisfying compliment of my career ever. I was there for 8 hours. I dropped 4 pounds in 8 hours. That's how much they worked us.
That's a good workout.
That's how much they worked us. And I'm sitting there, I was probably hitting about 325, 320, 325. They weighed it. They said, "This is what we do every morning. Go in there, we weighed, come back out, get in the ring, start doing stretches, and we start going through the workouts." And now here you got this guy named Dwayne Brooks, State Trooper Buddy Lee Parker.
Yep.
This dude's 5'9", 230 pounds, and nothing but a volcano. And he looks like he just a slow walking dude. Got neck muscles up behind his ears. And after he got in the ring, and I was working with Mike Graham, who was legendary now in Florida. I was with Mike Graham. It was me and Bob and Dwayne get in the ring with us, and we'd work out. And he would say, he'd show me something. He look at me, he says, "Now I know you know this." And I said, No. I said, "I'm here to learn, man. I'm here to just get better." And after that day, he said, "Hey kid, come here. I want you to step in my office." So we walked over there, and by that time, I knew WCW were on their heels because I saw their schedule, and all they had was 8 shows a month when it used to be 20, 22.
Yeah.
It was it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday Nitro, Wednesday Thunder, and that's all they had was TV tapings because they had no other shows. I saw their schedule. It was on. I'm sitting there befuddled because I'm like, you got this powerhouse of a company, and now you went from 20 to 24 shows a month down to 8.
Yeah.
That's it. And he pulled me to the side. He said, if this company wasn't such an uproar, he said, I'd get you in here. And to me, that was
cool.
That was the most gratifying compliment I'd ever took in my life. A man of a head trainer that sat there and saw something in me, knowing that after years of being pushed aside or being told, well, you know, your image doesn't fit our style. Mm-hmm. To sit there, I don't care if you look at my gimmick. If you don't like my gimmick, tell me.
Change
my
it.
gimmick. I'll change it. You know,
I'll be Big Bird. I don't care.
Yeah,
pin me, pay me.
But exactly. But for a man of his credibility to sit there and to train people like Goldberg, mm-hmm. He trained Goldberg. He trained Diamond Dallas Page. All these guys that were world champions, tells me you got what it takes to make it in this business. And it was the most gratifying compliment I'd ever taken in my life. So if I ever accomplished anything in this business, that was most satisfying to me. I mean that. So I just wanted to throw that back in there because I went through all that without saying anything about it. But
yeah, tell the story about working out with Bob Sapp. You were telling me the other day about how strong this guy was.
This dude, man, this dude was a mountain of muscle. I'm gonna tell you, he had muscles on his fingertips. Okay, this dude was 6'8", 6'9", 360 pounds, had a six-pack. He had 29-inch arms. He bench pressed 606 pounds 12 times. 12 times. And he probably didn't even start straining until about the 10th or 11th one.
Man.
And but we was in there, we was working through our match, and it was for one of the house shows. And sometimes during the month, I'd pull double duty. I'd do a house show. I'd stay the night in Cornelia and do the TV taping the next day. And but I got him in a headlock. And that son of a gun, he picked me up like in a backdrop. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a 20 by 20 ring. And he threw me 18 feet across the ring. I'm 325 pounds.
Yeah.
And he picked me straight up. And he pushed me with one arm. And I shot. And I'll kid you, I looked like the dang rainbow. If I had a cape, I looked like Superman. I'm not kidding. He threw me, and my feet hit, I turned, and my back was against the post on the other side of the ring.
That's some strength right there.
That man was super, super strong. Me and Bob stayed in touch for 4 or 5 years until I think he's living over in Japan now with his fiance or his wife. Oh, he opened up a couple businesses over there. They gave him the Antonio Inoki, who's like the god of wrestling over there. He loved Bob and called him the American Sensation, and that's when he went to that pride fighting over there. I guess wrestling didn't work out too well for him, but he got in a pride fight because there was more money.
Yeah.
And I remember one day when we were working out together, he and I went out to lunch, and he was living in some condominium in Atlanta, and he says, I got my personal chef coming over preparing all my meals. I said, what? He said, brother, I ain't made less than 6 figures since I was 22 years old.
Wow.
And he played for Washington Huskies. Then I think he went undrafted, and he was trying out for the Oakland Raiders, and he got cut with them, so that's when he decided to get into pro wrestling. And but he was a super cool guy. I hadn't talked to Bob in probably a good 4 or 5 years, but heck, when it's daylight here, there's sleep over there. So, but it was a great experience. I owe a lot of that to Wildside, and I owe a lot of that to Bill Behrens too, because if it weren't for him, I never had that opportunity. And Dusty had a big hand and get me booked at TNA as well as Bill did. They were both working. Bill was, I worked Shane Douglas, the franchise Shane Douglas, and that was probably the best 3-minute match I ever had right there. We actually had a cut of a spot out. He said, "Scratch this spot, go straight to this," and because we was back there in the gorilla, waiting to go out, and Jerry Jarrett said, "You got 7 minutes to the ring and back." So we had to go to the end. We had to go down the ramp to the ring, get introduced, do the match, and had to be back out within 7.5 minutes. So
make the best of it.
So we made the best of it, and it wasn't a very long match, but it was a good quick match.
Yeah.
And after the match was over with, you know how some of the bigger names, they just go on to about their way, and they go in their locker room. And when I walked back through the curtain, Shane was standing there, and he shook my hand. He said, "Man, it was a good match." He said, "I know it was short." He said, "I really would like to work you longer." He said, "That was a good match. Thank you." And that was one great experience too I had in the business, because Shane and I, through the whole pay-per-view, sit back there and talk the whole show.
Yeah.
We was talking about kids. We was talking about our families. Shane, I follow Shane on Twitter. He follows me. And sometimes I'll shoot him a message and see how he's doing and stuff. And he's probably doesn't remember who I am now, because that's been 17 years
let's
ago.
See.
It was 2000.
2000. It was 2003.
Yeah,
it was 18 years.
18 years.
Almost.
Yeah, October 20. It was October 29th, 2003, and I remember when flip phones were cool, because he was talking to his son. He was talking to his little boy that was dressed up like a Power Ranger, and he was talking to his son, and he got done, and I showed him pictures of Hannah and Danielle, and it was great.
Yeah.
And for a guy, and especially, a gratifying compliment as well, when a man stood right there at the gorilla and waited on me to come back there to just shake my hand and say, "Hey, great match," and then it was great. When Jimmy Hart was there, I wish I could have been booked for the next show, because Sting was supposed to be there that show, and then but it was good. It was definitely good times, and I've had a lot of great experiences, and I would have liked to have at least worked the mainstream, but I'm glad to see one of my proteges, you Rivers, got to experience that. So that made me feel good as a trainer, that helped you guys that were getting into the business, and y'all was able to work your ways. And I know there was a lot of great guys along the way that helped y'all get there as well. Chase Stevens, I like Chase.
Yeah. Even
though I've only met him a handful of times, we've always been cool. And, I know y'all. I heard y'all talk about Bert quite a bit, and that's another story there, because Bert cracks me up every time he talks. I start busting out laughing, and but yeah. So let's fast forward back. Back to Dusty. Dusty takes the job. So after Dusty closed the doors, I basically took a little bit more time off.
Yeah.
And actually, I worked a few small shows here and there, and then I went back to Anarchy in 2006, and I got in good with them, and they was really starting to push me, and then I got a shoot job offer that I couldn't turn down.
Yeah.
So I took that job. And I couldn't make every TV tape in there, so in this business goes on with or without you.
Right.
Even when we're dead in the ground, wrestling's going to keep going. So I started working for a guy named Jesse Ellis out of Harrogate, Tennessee, UCW, because his way he ran his shows worked with my work schedule, and so he was probably one of the hottest indie shows in that area at the time, and they brought me in, and I'm sure Shane Williams, the King Shane Williams. He was heavyweight champion, and Jeff Anderson was was the top heel of the company. So I was sitting out in the crowd. So I got in contact. I think it was John Justice who contacted me. And he said, this is how we're going to bring you in. He said, you're going to be sitting in the crowd with your kids. He said, then during the match, the main event, you're going to jump in, you're going to jump Shane. So we're sitting there, and it just so happens that Hannah's pitching coach, Tony Nicholson, was sitting there in the crowd with us. His daughter and his son was with them. And I looked at Tony, because I told Tony what was going on. I was like, I told him, I looked at him and I said, it's about time. I said, you got him? He said, I got him. You're good. And as soon as Shane went to go give Jeff the pile driver, I jumped in the ring, started just waylaying Shane. Boom, 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 boom. And the crowd just, they're stunned. This is when this is my heel years here.
Yeah.
And then I started beating the crap out of Shane. And Jeff Anderson rolled out of the ring. And he's sitting there, he's selling, and I just level Shane. And then I roll out of the ring. Jeff jumps up, and he looks at me and goes, cousin! You know, we hug one another, and he starts screaming, this my cousin, this my cousin, this my cousin. And everybody's shooting us birds, cussing us. Lord, I mean, even the words they were saying out in the crowd would have made the Lord just turn around and just squinch his teeth a little bit. Like, I can't believe they're saying that. But we got in the back, and that's when Henry Hall took off with United Championship Wrestling, and stayed worked for them till about 2000. I want to say 2009. Yeah, and then there was a big war going on up there between three promotions. It was UCW, UWE, and somebody else, and all the talent was pouring out, was leaving Jess because of politics. And you know how bad politics is in this sport. And one guy that, I mean, there was people calling in, was really, really disgruntled with the shot collar. And of course, one guy cut a promo saying, my name's if my name's such and such, I'm getting 95 title shots in 1 year. And, you know, and you're at the time you're a 24-year-old booker, but you're already an 8-time champion. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Come on, dude. And so that company fizzled out, but I can say that I probably had one of my greatest tag matches ever. It's definitely in my top 3, and that we had a steel cage match at the National Guard Armory in Maryville, and we should have been main event. I'm going to say that. We should have been main event of that show, but they made us say my main event. I said, don't worry about it, boys. I mean, because, you know, we really had a huge build-up for this match, staying in the steel cage. And I turned around and said, boys, don't worry about it. I said, let's just go in there and blow the roof off. And
now, who was it you was working with?
I was working with a man named Chester, Eric Gray, I think it's his name. God rest his soul. He'd been gone for about 10, 11 years. Died in his sleep. And then we was working death row inmates, and it was Willie B. Bad and Jason Max. And I'm talking about those 4 gargantuous men in there. And
they were always fun to work with.
Yes, and so I turned around and I said, all right, boys, right here's what we're going to do. I said, we're going to do a Tower of Doom.
That's a big old Tower of Doom.
That was a huge. So here, I mean, we went at it. I bet we went, it was a good 35 minutes in there. And we were so into it. We were so into the match that my adrenaline was rushing so hard that I told Jason to duck because I was going to do a spear. And he was standing up on the ropes, and I come off. Now at that time I'd probably jumped up and weight to about 390. At that time I was pretty pumped. But I took off on one side. I took off where he was at. He was standing behind me, and I run across the ring. I came off the ropes so I could keep building up steam. When I got about halfway across the ring, I was at full head of steam, and I was trying everything in my power to get that much faster. And when I got right to him, I went ahead and I dove. I dove with probably about 7-8 foot left. And he dropped. When he dropped, I face planted in the cage. I mean, I had marks all over my face. Because we were so pissed at the fact that they shot caller did us the way he did and the response we were getting from the crowds of the angle and the build up and we gave it we laid everything we had.
The house down,
we tore the house down. And then when it come time to do the Tower of Doom, and of course they turn around, they said, "Who's going to take it? Who's going to be the one on top?" I said, "I am." I'll take it. I said, "I'm calling it. I'm taking it. I'll take the pin." That's it. So we turned around, we got set up, and they were working me in the corner. I was already bleeding my whole face was covered with blood. Chester was bleeding all over the place, and the shot caller at the time didn't want Death Row bleeding because, come on, man, you got 4 guys beating the heck out of one another in the cage. Everybody should be bleeding. Okay? I mean, we're sitting there face planting everybody in the steel cage, and they're not
Don't make much sense.
No, it don't. It's stupid. But anyway, that's what. Never mind. I won't. But so we come to the time where we're setting up for the Tower of Doom, and they double team Chester. They gave him a double clothesline and double leg drop or something like that. He's laying in the ring. They double team me. They set me up on top, and they get up on the second rope. Then they pick me up, or, I'm just slowly trying to pull myself up. I get on top of the cage. They hook me, and then I seen Chester roll, and he got up under him. And then when I seen him lock his arms around their legs, I said, "Go." And here we come. They said it looked like one of them big red oaks out in California.
Whew.
Wow. And just so happened, and when that was the first time I ever got a holy sh. All right.
That's a big old Tower of Doom.
David Pearson's got it on video.
Oh, okay.
He's got it on video. I've tried every way in the world to get that. I love that match, and so I sat there, and that was it. They put the Tower of Doom on me, and I took the bump, and I'm laying in the middle of the ring, and so Willie rolls over to me and he says, "You okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." He said, "I'm going to do a splash off top." I said, "Kill me." Kill me. He got on top, 385 pounds, came off top and hit me with a splash. 1, 2, 3. And I'm laying there. I didn't move. I'm sitting there just sucking wind. And Jesse Ellis, after the match was over with, Bill grabbed my head and he said, "Brother, I love you." He said, "You're freaking awesome." He said, "I ain't never seen nobody do something like that or take that." He said, "You're freaking awesome." He said, "I promise you'll get your payback." Of course, I knew it was because they were that type of guys. If you're going to put them over and make them look that good, they're going to let you do it to them.
Right.
And so the first thing, they roll out, they're celebrating. And they're celebrating, and they go into the back. Well, here comes Jesse, the owner of the company. First thing he does, instead of getting in the ring to check on us, first thing he does, he pulls our apron up, looks up under the ring. Now, he paid $3,500 for a new wrestling ring. That was a brand new wrestling ring. Sure. And he's trying to make sure that it wasn't broke. But the main beam in the ring bent.
Oof.
When we did that. We're talking 1,500 pounds.
Yeah.
And coming down with force, and I was every bit of 12 feet up in the air. And now I was at that time, like I said, I was pushing 380, 390 and come crashing down. And you got Chester's 480 pounds. You got Willie, it's 385. You got Jason weighing right at 300. And I mean, but we set the tone for that show. It was Tennessee War Games. And Jesse got in the ring and said, "You okay?" And I said, "I'm fine." I said, "I'm perfect, man. I wasn't hurting, nothing. I was feeling great." And me and Chester, we slowly started working our way up. And then this was my first ovation. Crowd stood up and applauded.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. And
So that might answer the question, but I was wanting to wrap this thing up with asking you a couple of questions.
okay.
And the first one, what is your favorite match?
What is my favorite match? That, actually,
Or maybe you could do a top three.
I do a top three. Bull rope match I had with Sonny Siaki. Well, actually, I got a bunch of them, man. I got to throw Johnny Rock in there too because I love working with Johnny Rock. Johnny Rock wasn't nothing but a dream to work with, man. The sweetest super kick anybody could ever throw. Johnny Rock could do it. Love that boy.
Yep.
Love him. My favorite top three, and I've had so many good matches. It's hard, but I can say this: Tennessee War Games, 08, steel cage, Mexican Death Match when me and Rivers were tagging as Old School Outlaws. That was MSWA. Johnny Rock. We had a match in Dayton. That was one of my favorite matches. The double bull rope match I had with you and Rivers and Silvers, and the bull rope match I had with Terry Knight at Hardcore Hell 2001.
Yeah, I've watched that one on tape. That one was a good one.
Yeah, we was bleeding, boy. And matter of fact, Terry Knight got shit with us to me. It was me and Terry
That got
shipped to Dusty's.
Yeah.
And and John he flipped him a bird and said, "I'm done." He flipped him a bird and said, "I'm done with the business." Because after that, that's the only main reason why he was still hanging on, because he was wanting that angle with me to work Total Destruction. And after that happened right there, he said, "I'm not coming back."
Yeah.
And he told Bill, he told me that he told Bill, so I'm not coming back. He said, "We had a great angle, and you screwed it up. I'm gone." And I don't think he's been back since.
Well, it might not have been good for him, and it wasn't, like you said, you wasn't really happy about the way your Wildside days ended, but it did benefit you. You going to work for Dusty and everything.
Yeah.
But wrapping this thing up, I do want to say that, we always were at those TCW shows at the Cleveland Armory.
Yeah.
And, I've told you before that watching you tagging with Dusty, your angle with Siaki, your angle with Flair, that motivated me.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, hometown guy,
Yeah.
he's doing it, I can do it too.
That's right. But you did it better.
I don't know
Well,
about all that.
you gotta look at it like this now, son. You went to the mainstream.
Well,
To me, that was an accomplishment to me, because somebody that I took Rivers under my wing, and we'll get another story but I would like to continue to talk how when me and Rivers got together as Old School Outlaws, because we did go on a tear there for a while, but taking guys like you and Rivers, putting y'all under my wing and giving y'all the foundations to the business, what to do, how to improve yourself, what to say, what not to say, being a sponge, taking in everything you can, it paid off for you guys. And to me, that's a great accomplishment in my career as a teacher.
yeah.
And so I've had a good career, and I wish I could have been mainstream. Wish I could have went to Japan, but it didn't work out. But I'm still overall happy with the way things turned out.
Yeah.
As they have. So,
Well, like I always tell everybody, we could sit here and talk for days, but we got to save some for a part 2 down the road. But you got anything you'd like to say in closing?
in closing, I will be back. I will be back. Part 2 is coming up. So you better, how they say, you better, who was it? God, what was it old Savage always said? You better buckle down because it's going to be a bumpy, bumpy road. Oh, yeah.
All right, on that note, we'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to Wrestling for the Faith with Casey Cage. Sponsorship opportunities are available. Contact us at wrestlingforthefaith@gmail.com for more information.